Thanks for joining us, everybody, today. I'm really excited to be talking to you about our Friction Point 2.0 study. My name's Anu Roberts. I'm the Senior Director of Modern Retail for Product Marketing at CDK. And joining me today is Mike Lutke. He's the NADA Academy instructor for the Dealer Academy. And Peter Kahn, our Senior Director for CDK Research and Insights. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I'd like to begin by asking you, Mike. I'd love to understand why it was important for NADA to do this study.
Sure. Well, thanks for asking. And it's been a partnership that we've had over a few years now. So at our academy at NADA, we have the education side, but we also have the political side and the convention side of this. But in the education side, in our academy, we have about 1,000 students that come through every year. And those are the future leaders of automotive retail. They're people that are in their dealerships, that are general managers, that are training to be general managers, dealer principals, marketing managers, finance managers, service managers, even an occasional parts manager. Actually, there's more than one. We always joke with them a little bit. But whenever I go through the class, I look for things that will be valuable to our students. So about 4 years ago, the main topic at this show was digital retailing. What is digital retailing? How do we define it? How do we execute it? What is the concept of it? And then we were forced into the future. We got into the future, and this study is really important for our students to be the leaders in the industry, figuring out what is the best structure, what is the best strategy, and what are the issues that dealers are facing, not just themselves, across the country, when it comes to implementing a digital sales process. And it has been a great partnership over the few years that we've done this study together.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that partnership. And so, Peter, similarly for you, why was it important for CDK to do this study?
Yeah, first of all, I want to give a big shout out to NADA and Mike for the partnership that we've had over the last couple of years. It's been fantastic, and certainly for all the dealers that take those surveys and give us that honest and transparent feedback. Getting that information from you all is really important, because that's how we learn, that's how we grow, that's how we improve. What we really want to understand out of the study is, can we make the variable operations process better? Can we improve customer satisfaction at the same time making basically the sales job easier and turn more units, actually? So number one, high customer sat. Number two, an easy process, again, for the shopper and for the dealership, and sell more cars, and maybe actually reduce some of the operating margin when it comes to how many folks you need in the showroom, in the internet department, and F&I.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's dive into the study a little bit. Peter, what were some of the key learnings that you got out of it?
So we surveyed 1,100 shoppers who had recently bought a car at a dealership last 6 months, and found out what their experience was like. And then through Mike and the NADA Academy, we were able to get 335 responses from mostly dealer principals, general managers, and some folks on the floor. And that's what served as the learnings that we got out of this. So starting on the shopper side, we asked them, how long did it take for you to go through the dealership from the time you got there till the time you were able to drive out? We asked that same question of the dealer. How long do you think it takes on average to sell a car? And one of the learnings we got out of that was that there's a mismatch. And by the way, this has been going on with this study. We've done this study for 5 years now, and this mismatch continues to be the case between what the shopper believes on how long it takes to, go through the process, and how long the dealers think it takes to sell a car. About 50% of the dealers think, hey, I get this done between 1 and 2 hours, and none of them think it takes more than 4 hours. Shopper side, 34% of the shoppers say, yeah, it took me about between 1 and 2 hours. Another 25% said between 3 and 4 hours, and 10% said it takes more than 4 hours. Now, the interesting thing about that, and it's a really important takeaway, which is if it takes more than 3 hours from the shopper side, the customer satisfaction, and we do that through likely to recommend, that's our metric, the customer satisfaction really plummets. It goes from a high-flying bird to a submarine. So time matters. And the fact that the dealers are thinking they're moving it faster, that's a disconnect, and we need to think about that and work on that. So that's one of the key takeaways.
Wow, that's amazing. Were there any really big surprises in there that we uncovered? We've been doing this for, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, so I'm going to start, and then Mike's going to pick up that on that one. one of the big surprises I need from my perspective is we've now been doing this for a number of years, and we thought digital retailing was really going to make a difference as it related to, again, making it easier to sell a car, making it faster for the customer. But we found that, again, over the last couple of years, that whole time thing that I just took you through hasn't changed at all. And then looking at how many dealers have invested in digital retailing and how many dealers are using digital retailing in the showroom, that hasn't changed either. So we've had, a number of years to really incorporate digital retailing, bring it into the workflow, but only 30% are using it in the showroom. And again, time to get the sale done has not changed at all. And so the surprise is, why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And Mike, similarly, I mean, if there's anything you want to elaborate, any other surprises or?
So there were a lot of surprises in previous studies that were really big takeaways for people in our class. And in this study, it's the same concepts that are driving that. But one of the things I wanted to get out of this study was about the concept of time and how does that impact employee retention. So we added a few questions to this year's study that talked about digital retailing and turnover, digital retailing and headcount, and digital retailing and productivity metrics per person at the store, specifically on the sales side. So the intention was for us to compare that to our dealership workforce study that we do every year that has thousands of dealers that contribute their payroll data, that we have a lot of retention numbers, turnover numbers, payroll numbers, and to see is there a correlation or any type of causation between the fact that if a store is using digital retailing technology in their showroom, online, the different ways that they could implement it, was there a correlation between that and turnover? And I didn't see a correlation yet. But the concept of time is very important for dealers, for their employees. In this year, I don't think anyone's projecting that our gross profits are going to increase per unit, but a lot of people are projecting that those gross profits are most likely to decline. And if they decline, what does a salesperson have to do? What does a sales manager have to do? What does a dealer principal and general manager have to do to make up that change? Well, they have to do more with less. They have to sell more units per person, and they have to figure out how to, the investment that our expenses need to go further. So one of the main takeaways from last year's study is consistent with this year's study, and I don't want to forget that takeaway because it was such a powerful takeaway for people in our class, is that dealers that are using digital retailing in the showroom as part of their transaction are selling more units per employee. And it wasn't even close. It was substantially higher. So on an average. So that number last year went from the average units per person of around 10.8 nationally from our dealers of the NADA composites, which is a few thousand dealers, to dealers that self-selected that they were using digital retailing in our study, we're selling 16 units per person.
Oh, wow. That is a big jump.
It was a significant improvement. Now that concept, there was nothing new in this year's study on that, but it confirmed it. It confirmed that when you're incorporating digital tools into the sales process, your salespeople can be more productive.
Yeah, that's pretty striking. So Peter, Mike talked a lot about the obviously the advantages that it can bring when you're actually utilizing your digital retailing tool, not just on the online portion, but in the showroom. What are some things that dealers can do? How should dealers really take the data that we're doing in this friction point study and apply it? Yeah. What are they missing?
Great question. So we've talked about the fact that time matters, both from the dealer standpoint and from the customer standpoint. How do we make this go faster? And the study's called friction points. And that's where dealers need to focus, is look at the process that they use on how to sell a car and where are the bottlenecks. And understanding that process, duplicate leads, which turn out to be a big friction point. It's over 50%, both the sales agents and the BDC managers are dealing with duplicate leads. How do we solve for that? Waiting for the desk manager. And again, time being a critical factor, and shoppers say it's taking too long. Going back to the desk multiple times and wait for the desk manager, that's leaving the customer alone. How do we maybe improve that and maybe bring some of the power of desking tools back to the salesperson so they can do the desk and not leave that shopper and make that move faster. The F&I manager, there was a lot of friction around having all the documents there in one place so they could do the signing quickly. So having a coordinated system so we can bring the documents together and keep people from waiting, but also move people faster through the F&I process. We know that, quite frankly, once a customer has decided they're going to buy the car, they know what it's going to cost, they start to get a little impatient. They want to drive away with the car. So if they're waiting for the F&I manager, and the F&I manager is struggling with having those documents, that can cause friction as well. So I think my takeaways for dealers is look at your processes all the way through variable operations. Understand where there's wait time, where there's inefficient processes, where technology is getting in your way, and how to improve that so you have a seamless workflow, both people, process, and technology. I think that's really critical.
Yeah, you really hit it at the very end there for me, because I think for the takeaways, as I was reading through the friction point study, technology only takes you so far. And if dealers can really implement exactly what you said, Peter, right? That it's the process and the people that you mentioned, Mike, as well. Modern retailing really should be thought of in a much broader view, not just a DR tool, but really how do I make it easier and engage our consumers in whatever fashion, however they're comfortable purchasing. And that's where we see the engagement really come to life. So just focusing on that, and that's frankly, from CDK's perspective, that's really where our product development team has spent a lot of time this last year dissecting exactly all of those friction points and the importance of making it easier. How do we make this easier for the dealers to then make it easier for the consumers? And that's really what our focus area is. And I think any technology partner that's the role that we play, is how do we make and enable the dealers, and then from their perspective, taking that, utilizing and leveraging that, putting the right process in place, putting the right tools in place. So I just wanted to thank you both so much. This was a really great discussion. There's a lot to dig in here. Our friction point study is going to be available online here shortly. I would encourage dealers to really dive in, take a look at that. But I really appreciate your time, Mike and Peter. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us.